lot of people have been complaining about the video game industry over the last couple of years, justifiably. But what if I told you over the last couple of years we've gotten the most stunning and mechanically creative games we've ever seen? But what if I then told you 3 of the top 10 best reviewed games on Steam of all time have come out in the last 2 to 3 years? But what if I then told you we're going to continue to get awesome games that break the barrier this year in 2026? Would you believe me? Well, I hope so, because today we're going to be reviewing my favorite games of 2026, and it's only up from here. While there are some FPS games coming out this year, it does seem like their reign over the video game industry is coming to a close, and the rise of story-based exploration games is on the come up. And that's even more apparent with this year's releases. The first game I'm excited for this year is Pragmata, which is supposed to be a sci-fi action adventure. There was a demo available on Steam, so I did download that and give it a shot. My first impressions were just wow. The graphics, of course, were absolutely visually stunning, but what I thought was really cool was the spin on the shooter combat. This isn't something we've necessarily seen from a lot of games recently. However, the spin on the combat mechanic with a good story is what gave Expedition 33 its Game of the Year win last year. Not to cast my vote, but I think it's safe to say if the story is as good as it says or good as it seems it's going to be, we could have a contender for Game of the Year as early as April 24th. This, of course, is going to be coming out on all major consoles, including PC. Next, we're going to look at Saros, which comes out a week later on April 30th. It looks like it's going to be a sci-fi adventure with some dark and haunting aspects. You play as a Centauri enforcer exploring the world of Carcosa, which of course has enemies to defeat and secrets to uncover. This is coming from the same game developers as Returnal, so we can expect the visuals to also be stunning. However, this does look like it's going to be a PlayStation exclusive to start, but I'm sure we will see it coming to PC eventually, but it's going to take a year or two most likely. Then about a month later on May 27th, we have 007 First Light releasing. This is going to be another action adventure where you're playing as a young James Bond trying to stop a major conspiracy and coup. This game has made some headlines recently due to its more demanding spec requirements, similar to how Indiana Jones was getting some criticism, and ultimately IO Interactive decided to push their release back about 2 months. And the reason for this was to give them more time to polish and refine the experience. I'm just hoping this isn't to further optimize the game and they're kind of rushing it out the door. This could end up in a similar situation as Cyberpunk when it was released, where we weren't actually able to play it for months because of the state of the day one release. They have stated that this game is playable from beginning to end. However, just because a game is playable does not mean it is enjoyable. So we definitely need to keep an eye on that as well. That may not be a day one release type of purchase, but this will be coming to all major systems and PC as well. We have a pretty big gap between 007 and the next game that I'm excited for, which is Phantom Blade Zero. This is going to be another Souls-like RPG where you're playing as a character named Soul who has 66 days to live, and you are being hunted by past comrades and essentially just trying to figure out what put you in this position. This game does look like it's going to benefit from having a higher spec system. However, we haven't gotten the full system requirements as this doesn't appear to be coming out until late September. The last few games that I want to talk about don't have official release dates, but have been stated to be coming out this year. The first is the Duskbloods, which is From Software's first Nintendo exclusive. This is supposed to be another Souls-like game, similar to, I'm assuming, Bloodborne. However, this does say it is going to be a multiplayer experience. Not sure how close it's going to feel to Elden Ring Night Rain, which was also a multiplayer experience. But this is probably the most exciting release that we've had on the Switch 2 since launch. This is going to be another Game of the Year contender, or it's just going to be From Software's next flop. Similar to the other games that I mentioned, there isn't a lot of actual in-game footage as this is just a rumored announcement. But based on the specs we have for the Switch 2 and the games that we do have currently running on the Switch 2, if From Software optimizes their game well, we should be more than fine. The last two games that I want to talk about are Star Wars games. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. The first is Star Wars Galactic Racer, which is of course a racing game taking place in the Outer Rim of the Star Wars galaxy. We don't have a lot of information. It's probably coming out in the holiday season this year, but I think based on what we have seen from the trailers, we can assume some high fidelity graphics. This is coming to all major platforms, PC, and consoles. The next game we have is Star Wars Hero Company, which is very different as it's a turn-based action adventure. It's also coming out on all major consoles and PC. We don't have any information for this one either, no release dates or anything, but I think it's safe to say that both of these games should be pretty good. However, one of them is being produced by EA. I don't have a lot of expectations for those games other than wanting high fidelity graphics, a compelling story, and consistent frames. And that's all I really want from any of the games that we mentioned today. Over the last few years, we've seen some companies take some shortcuts when it comes to optimization and making sure that games run well on older hardware. With the current state of AI and how that's affecting the video game industry when it comes to RAM production, storage production, etc., it's going to get exponentially harder to upgrade our components. And over the last few years, it seems like companies are expecting gamers to consistently be upgrading their components, and not just upgrading them to the highest level components, which costs thousands of dollars. I'm hoping that this situation that we're being pushed into forces companies to really take time into developing their software, developing their games, and optimizing it for everyone, which we'll be diving into next week, so tune in. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a good week.